How will you be remembered? Legacy Leadership, right now on the Leadership Voice. Welcome to the Leadership Voice. I'm your host, Jay Barbuto. Today's show is the first installment of our Legacy series, where we highlight great people and their sustainable impact. Our guest today is Terry Giles. We have a great, purposeful discussion to come, so let's start things off with today's quote of the day. Today's quote comes from Davy Crockett. "We gaze with admiration upon the glories of the setting sun, yet scarcely bestow a passing glance upon its noonday splendor." Our featured guest today is Terry M. Giles. Terry grew up in an impoverished family on the Missouri side of the Ozark Mountains. He attended 21 different schools in 3 different states in his first 10 years of education, finally settling in Orange County and graduated high school. He attended Cal State Fullerton. Terry went to law school and founded a large criminal defense practice. In 8 years, he tried 90 cases to verdict, including 13 murder cases and 3 death penalty cases. He later acquired or built 35 different companies through his holding company, Giles Enterprises. While building his business career, he was persuaded to rebuild his law firm, but this time only handling civil cases. He went on to try 60 civil cases to verdict, many of which are high profile. To this day, he credits his experience in the intercollegiate debate at CSUF for his success in both the courtroom and the boardroom. Please welcome to the show, Terry Giles.
Hi, Jay. Great being here.
Terry, thanks for being on the show to share your journey and your wisdom with us. We're really looking forward to this.
It's my pleasure.
Why don't we jump right in and tell us how it was that you were able to build such a prestigious law practice at such a young age?
Well, I think there was a lot of luck involved in it, to be honest with you. You can be the best lawyer in the world, but if you don't have any clients, or if you don't have the right clients and the right cases, nobody ever knows about it. And I was very lucky early in my career to get some high-profile cases. We got good results in the courtroom. And as a result, I got a lot of press because of those cases. And then we had some unique ways that we dealt with our clients back in those days that was different than most criminal defense lawyers. For instance, I put my home phone number on the cards. I wanted clients always to be able to reach me. I was very careful to never play hide the ball with my clients. I tried to speak in plain English and not legalese, and to make sure they absolutely understood where they were and what we were doing for them at all times. So there were some very basic things that, to me, just made common sense, but it turned out that they were unusual characteristics for practicing lawyers in that era. And as a result, the practice just exploded.
And it was primarily criminal defense, right?
Yeah. I really grew up watching Perry Mason and Owen Marshall. For those who don't know, those were television series about defense lawyers. And it just seemed very exciting to be a trial lawyer. And since I had been pretty good in speech and debate, both in high school and then had gone to college on a debate scholarship, it seemed like a natural to be a trial lawyer. And I really, I think, geared myself toward criminal because I could be in trial faster once I got out of law school because of the 90-day requirement for your clients to get a trial if they demanded it in the criminal court room, as opposed to civil, which could, in those days, take 5 years before you get to trial.
And so in the height of your practice, if somebody in California were accused of a heinous crime, you were
Yeah.
You had the reputation that you were one of those, you need Terry Giles.
Well, I was part of the first defense team for Angelo Bono, who was the Hillside Strangler, for Bill Bonin, who was the Freeway Killer. Our office was involved in one way or the other on almost all of the big criminal cases in the 70s, from let's say 75 until 81, 82, 83.
So we could probably make movies about the clients that you had an opportunity to work with through the years.
Yeah, there have been a couple movies made about those clients for sure.
So let's talk about your early entrepreneurial lessons, because at a very young age, you built a thriving legal practice. But what did you discover early on that needed to change for you to succeed?
Well, first of all, I think I had to feel good about what I was doing. And initially, when I started practicing criminal law, I loved it. And because of the television shows I watched, I think I actually thought that when I got into practice, most of my clients would be innocent. But when I actually got into the reality of the practice, a vast majority of your clients are guilty of at least something, maybe not as much as the DA has suggested, but they're guilty of something. I didn't have that be a problem early on, and the excitement and the adrenaline of being in a trial and having a lot of press and seeing your picture in the paper was all very, very exciting. But 8.5 years in, I represented a client by the name of Fred Douglas. Fred was accused of killing 9 women. The police made some mistakes, and I got some evidence suppressed, and the DA trying the case made a couple of mistakes in trial, and I was able to take advantage of that. Fred was acquitted, and then 6 months later, he killed 2 more girls. And it was at that point that it really hit me what I was doing. And I couldn't figure out why the world was a better place because of what I was doing for a living. And I walked away from the practice. And we had the largest criminal defense firm in the state at that time. But I also became aware when I walked away from the practice that the practice wasn't worth anything once I left, because it's a personal service business. In fact, the firm fell apart within 6 months of me leaving. So I just decided, I built a business here. This wasn't just a law firm. This was a business. At one time, we had over 100 employees. It was a thriving, successful enterprise. So why couldn't I do that again, but do it in a way so that if a bus ran over me in a crosswalk someday, the company wouldn't lose any value. And so that really began my business career.
So you decided you needed to add value to a business, not be the value of the business.
That's exactly right. And make sure that I surrounded myself with really, really good people.
So as an entrepreneur, through the years, you've been involved in a lot of different businesses.
Yeah.
You've started companies, you've bought companies that needed to be rejuvenated. You've jumped in partnerships. You've had a lot of different ventures through the years. So how do you find time with all of these different ventures to still learn and still discover?
It's really funny. I've had the opportunity to be analyzed psychologically on a couple of different occasions, and I actually have 2, I think what people would consider to be psychological disadvantages, but the 2 of them work great together to really help me. First of all, I have ADD. And I know I had it as a kid, and I definitely have adult ADD, which has really driven me to buy companies. I get bored easy. I love to have a lot of different things going. But I also have OCD, and my OCD makes me keep everything organized. So as a result, it just has been natural for me to be able to move from one thing to the other and concentrate on that particular thing at that particular moment, but then in the next moment, move to the next box and then concentrate on that. And so it's really been interesting. These 2 different sort of what I think a lot of people would call a disadvantage have actually worked in my favor. over my lifetime.
So your desire for variety is, I guess, complemented or met with your desire for order and for details and for structure.
I've said on several occasions my ADD causes me to go out and buy companies, and my OCD causes me to have to get in and organize each of them as much as I possibly can. My OCD could make me want to stay home and reorganize my sock drawer all day, but my ADD gets me out of the house and causes me to get involved in some pretty exciting things.
So through the years, you've ventured into a lot of different types of industries and a lot of different ventures. So how do you decide what type of business is worth investing?
You know, it took me a while to actually discover internally what it was, because out of the 35 companies, I've had some really big successes, but I've had a couple of flops too. And then it became obvious to me that if I could envision myself as a customer of the business, then it was easy for me to determine whether or not that was a company I wanted to be involved in, and if I did, how I would reorganize it to better serve its client base on the basis of what I would like to see. So for instance, when I bought the automobile dealership, I created an atmosphere within the automobile dealership that I would have liked to have seen when I have gone in and bought an automobile. And I've had that experience, and so I know what I didn't like, I know what I like, and I try to surround with that. Another company that was a complete flop for me was I bought it out of bankruptcy, and it made carpet pad. But the truth of the matter is, I don't think I've ever bought carpet pad. I'm sure I bought it, but I had nothing to do with it. My wives would pick out the carpet, and the carpet pad was just something that came with it. But I really didn't have an understanding of how I might organize that or do something unique with that business. And as a result, it was not successful.
So in many ways then, for you, you have to be able to empathize with your customer.
That's right, because that's what it's really all about. Obviously, you have to have a decent product, but there are a lot of great products out there, and not all of them turn into being great companies. But if you have a good product, and then you can figure out who your customer is and how you can turn them on and keep them turned on, now you have the makings of what's going to be a very successful and long-term enterprise.
Terry, you've had a long, I'm going to use the word string, but you've had a long string of successes. I know you say you've also had some burps along the way, some hiccups along the way, but you've really have had a lot of successes, and you've been able to overcome a lot of challenges along the way. You've been met with a lot of hurdles along the way, and each venture would have its own set of hurdles or its own challenges, and maybe it's all connected to many of the challenges that you've had to overcome throughout your life. But why is it that you seem to thrive in those moments when other people say it can't be done?
Well, you know, for one thing, I've never been shy about asking for help. And so literally every business that I've been in, I have tried to seek somebody who could mentor me in that particular enterprise. And I don't believe you're ever too old to learn. You're never too old to be coached by someone who knows more about that than you do. And I've been very, very lucky to get to meet some very gracious people who have taken the time to really assist me. For instance, when we were involved in buying apartment buildings and shopping centers in Germany. When I got to Germany in the late 80s, I could see there was opportunity there, but I didn't know how to take advantage of it. And then I met a gentleman who was a self-made billionaire in real estate. I asked for his help. He took me under his wing and really showed me the ropes. And that has happened over and over and over again in my companies. So trying to take a look at the people who have been successful and paying attention and really listen to what the advice that they give you, and not being afraid or too arrogant to ask for help has really been, I think, the secret that it perhaps is not that secret, but it's the glue that's made everything work.
I mean, you've always been smart, you've always been savvy, but you've also had that humility to know your own limitations.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, you can be smarter than anybody in the room, and yet you can still make a lot of mistakes in business. And it's so important. Two things. Listen, like I explained, and never be afraid to hire people that are better than you are. You know, when I get involved in a company, I don't need another Terry Giles. I don't need another me. I need people who can do certain jobs within that business much better than I can. For instance, I'm pretty good at the vision and where I want to take it. But from the standpoint of the day-to-day organization, you know, sort of grinding things out in a lot of business, once you get it right, now you need somebody who will watch over it and just grind it out day after day after day. I have unbelievable respect for people who have that talent, but that's not me. My ADD won't let me do that. I get bored too easily. I'll create problems or fires so I have something to put out. And so I have to make sure to realize what I'm not in a particular business, and that's what I'm looking for to bring into the company.
Well, that's a great way to cap off this part of our interview. Terry, so far we've talked about your business journey, and we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk more about your leadership philosophies.
That sounds great.
It's now time for a featured segment of the Leadership Voice. It's today's Did You Know? Today's Did You Know comes from givingusa.org. In 2022, the three biggest motives for donor giving were inspiration, strengthened trust, and deep understanding of an organization. It's now time for our Leadership Countdown. Today's countdown comes from Forbes magazine. Today we bring you the 5 progressive steps of effective legacy building. Step 1, know your identity and values as an individual and a leader. Step 2, have a set of guiding foundational principles that represent your identity and values. Step 3, have the courage to take risks. Step 4, genuinely support others whenever you can. And the 5th step of legacy building is being completely mindful of the responsibility and opportunity you have to impact others. Don't go anywhere. We will continue our conversation with Terry Giles right after we learn how you can bring learning to your work. The Bringing Learning to Work program is our way of connecting the faculty of Cal State Fullerton with the business community of Orange County and Southern California. We have over 72 training programs that are available via distance or face-to-face. And the faculty come to your company and they deliver the training to your employees.
The Bringing Learning to Work program is really fundamentally, it's leadership programming. We do diversity and emotional intelligence training. We partner with Cal State Fullerton because they had subject matter experts in these fields. And we're really fortunate and privileged to be able to do that.
Many companies can't afford training and development personnel. And so this is a great opportunity to leverage Cal State's faculty to help them develop their learning programs.
The leadership of the center and the students allow me to not only bring leadership development to my company, but allow me to interact with some amazing students who have grit potential and just amazing futures in front of them, and I get to take part of that. It's a wonderful feeling.
When your organization is ready to develop its talent, reach out to the Center for Leadership, and we'll help get you there. Welcome back to the Leadership Voice. Let's continue our conversation with Terry Giles.
Hi, Jay. How you doing?
We're doing great. So, Terry, we already talked a little bit about your business journey. Let's talk about your leadership philosophy today. When you're building your teams, how do you assemble just the right people?
Well, first of all, I'm looking for people that have specific skills that will fit in certain positions. The other thing I do is try to give people a lot of autonomy. Once I've got the right person, I've got to give them the freedom to be the best that they can be. And I have to be careful not to micromanage because that'd be the wrong thing to do. And since I'm looking for somebody who is better than I am in a particular position, why would I want to micromanage them? I want to take advantage of them being the best they can be in that role. So giving them the freedom to do that becomes very important.
So you're trying to choose the right people and then give them the autonomy they need to really shine and really thrive.
That's right. And if they have that freedom, then they're really enjoying themselves in that position. They can move through the organization or move up as fast as they are capable of doing. I will support the business from the standpoint of capital that it needs. And as long as they're applying that capital brilliantly, then it works terrific. And when you get the right person in the right job and you give them the freedom to be everything that they want to be, then it becomes pretty easy to keep them long term. That's why, the people in hotels in Europe, our properties in Mexico, they've all been with me more than 30 years because those properties are a part of who they are. They've helped me develop them. They've helped them grow. They've helped them to have an international reputation, and they deserve all the accolades they get. And eventually, when someone's been with me for a period of time, they're no longer an employee. They're no longer a part of the staff. I will give them a percentage of the business, and now they are a partner.
So when you are looking at potential people to be part of your team, is there something, an attribute, something that they must possess?
I wish there was some magic formula that I could point to. I can't say that there is. I guess it comes down to whether or not I'm convinced that they can do the job I'm looking for them to do. And I've had some misses there too. I've been fooled a couple of times. But for the most part, if I have complete clarity of what I'm looking for, I would say that I've been successful in picking the right person probably 7 or 8 out of 10 times.
And earlier you mentioned that one of the things that you try to do is when you bring in good, talented people, you try to give them the autonomy and freedom to be able to shine and do their job and not be micromanaged, and that has led to them staying longer periods of time. Is there anything else that you seem to do that creates this incredible loyalty that people have to you?
Well, you want to create a team concept. I don't want them to look at me as the boss. Okay, I might own obvious majority of the business. It might be me who's putting capital into the business, but the truth of the matter is we're part of a team. And I'm a team member, and I have a responsibility to that business that I have to fulfill, and they are a team member. That's why when they've been with me a long time, it's such a great feeling to now give them a piece of the hotel or the property or the business. Because they now truly are your partner. And that's just such a great feeling. I mean, it's exciting for them. It's oftentimes life-changing money for them. And it feels perfect when you have that synergy going.
Yeah, things converge in a great way. So could you describe your leadership philosophy?
Let me just say that I know I can sometimes be pretty tough in a meeting if things aren't going well. I can be pretty blunt, and I can get to the bottom line, and I can pretty quickly, because I'm involved in so many things. I need to move quickly from item to item, and I can't waste a lot of time. But I like to believe I'm really fair. So while I can be critical, I can also pour on praise. And when people are doing a good job, I can pour that out pretty significantly and make them feel wonderful. If things aren't going so good, I don't try to make them miserable, but let's not hide the fact that we just had a failure. It might be an unhappy customer. It might be a bad month or a bad quarter. So let's not hide that. Let's together feel the pain of what we've just been through, and let's feel what that's like. And then let's snap out of it. Let's turn it around, and it will feel better when we've solved the problem.
It's kind of fail fast and fail forward and learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm convinced that the only time we really learn is when we make mistakes. If we're doing everything right, and I've had certain periods of my life where I've had winning streaks where it seems like every single thing is going good, and as soon as I start getting full of myself, that's when I'll take an arrow to the heart, and it'll wake me back up to how difficult it is to be successful in business, and how lucky I've been.
Yeah, I've heard it said that we have to take some chances.
Yeah.
And when we take chances, there's always some risk.
Yeah, when you make a mistake and it costs you, and it's painful, that's when, at least for me, that's when I really closely evaluate what happened here, how did we get here, what are the things I need to learn. That's really where you learn.
And I guess if we never take a chance, then we never really will realize some of the great growth or the great opportunities.
I say this all the time in our team meetings, that real life starts at the end of your comfort zone. So if you're not a little uncomfortable, then you're probably not doing it right. You're not reaching far enough. That you want to try to get as close as you can to the cutting edge, not the bleeding edge, and you want to try to stay in that zone because that's where you're going to be ahead of your competition.
Terrific. So let's talk a little bit about pivoting.
Okay.
And how has your leadership philosophy had to adapt through the years, and how you've had to revisit your approaches to leading?
Well, when I think about it, I started the law practice in 1974. So next year will be my 50th year in business. And society has changed a lot in those 50 years. And so a lot of the changes we've put together is how society has changed. You're always looking for good young people, because you're not going to have somebody work for you for 30 years unless they start out relatively young to begin with. And so how young people felt about things and what their goals and objectives were in the 70s and 80s and 90s is much different than the young people in 2000s, 2010, and now the 2020s. And so we have to not lose track of what motivates people, and it does change over time. And then we have to change and adapt. If we're going to get good people, then we have to change and adapt it and match what the motivating factors are for young people coming into business today.
So if you were talking to a young leader or an aspiring leader, somebody has ambitions and aspirations, what advice would you give somebody?
Well, first, try to take advantage of whatever your natural skills are. If you're a natural born people person and you have the ability to sell, look for businesses where you're going to be able to take advantage of that. If you have a natural ability to communicate verbally, look for a business where that's going to be an asset to you. If your natural abilities go to mathematics and engineering, then you're going to be more interested and you're going to do better in a company where you can utilize those skills. It amazes me how often people end up in a job simply because that's sort of what was available at the time, but not really what they wanted. And then they get into that position, they make a little money, they get a mortgage and a loan on their car, and now they can't leave. And before they know it, 20, 30 years have gone by and they're trapped, not really doing what makes them happy. And then that can turn into all sorts of things, alcoholism, divorces, drugs, because of the unhappiness of not feeling fulfilled. So first thing is, try to take advantage of the skill set that you have. And then secondly, try to surround yourself with people that are better than you are.
That's a great combination.
Yes.
So we've talked about our leadership philosophies. I'm going to ask you to stick around because we're going to also talk a little bit about your future and your legacy in just a little bit.
Sounds great.
It's now time for our leadership example. The mission of the Horatio Algiers Association is to honor those whose experiences exemplify the core belief that opportunities for a successful life are available to all individuals who are dedicated to the principles of integrity, hard work, perseverance, and compassion for others. Here are 20 Californian recipients of the Horatio Algiers Award. It's now time for today's leadership lesson. Today I will be talking about leader decision-making constraints and opportunities. I'm Jay Barbuto, and here is today's leadership lesson. Leaders often find themselves in an unenviable position of making decisions on the fly with limited time, limited information, and limited first-hand expertise with which to work. This phenomenon results in what is called bounded rationality. Bounded rationality explains how decisions suffer when constrained by certain factors. Today we will talk about these constraints and help you manage them. There are 3 constraints that push us towards a state of bounded rationality. These include complexity of the problem, cognitive capability of the decision maker, and time constraints of the decision maker. For example, at a restaurant, you may not be ready to place an order, but the waitstaff is standing in front of you and you must decide. You may not know the menu, you may not know the options, you may not know what others would recommend, but you are constrained, so you order something. Another example is a CEO unable to make fully rational decisions because of time constraints. CEOs need time to process decisions, but due to limited time, they are forced to make decisions without often consulting others or gathering the necessary information. When leaders operate under conditions with limited grasp, limited capability, or limited time, their decisions are satisficing, which combines satisfy and sacrifice. The results are decisions we can live with, but are rarely optimal. So what can we do to counter these constraints and optimize decision quality? To overcome challenges of problem complexity, leaders should surround themselves with talented people with first-hand knowledge of the problem so that their decisions will be fully informed. To overcome limitations in cognitive capability, leaders must seek and trust the opinions of experts. Surround yourself with great people and listen to those most qualified. Leaders, you cannot be the smartest person in every room. If you think you are, then you need to get better people in that room. To overcome time constraints, leaders should avoid hasty decision-making. Schedule time to think. Shorten those 1-hour meetings to 50 minutes and give yourself 10 minutes to think, consult, or act. Give yourself the time needed or you'll fall back to satisficing. Follow these 3 tips to manage bounded rationality, and you can manage the complexity of the problem. Leverage the expertise and allocate the time needed to make better decisions. I'm Jay Barbudo, and this has been your leadership lesson. You can check out all of our leadership lessons by visiting our website below. Thank you for sticking around, Terry. We're excited to talk more about your future and your legacy and your work with the center.
Great. I look forward to it.
So you invested in the center. You gave a gift to the college so that they could start the Center for Leadership. Why did you do that? It was just a concept at the time.
Yeah, it was. I went to Cal State, of course, undergraduate, and then I went to Pepperdine Law School. And I have been a major participant of the Pepperdine family over the years. I was the first alumni to be appointed to the Board of Regents, now been on the Board of Regents for over a quarter of a century, the Life Regent. And other than giving debate scholarships to Cal State, I hadn't really done anything for Cal State, and I felt a little bad about that. And so when I was approached by the dean of the business school, that I want to say was now 14 or 15 years ago, he was hoping I'd put in the seed money to start this thing called the Center for Leadership. And the amount they wanted me to fund was $200,000, and I hadn't done enough, in my opinion, for Cal State. And so really, it was wanting to do something, and it seemed like that was the thing. I had no idea at the time what the Center for Leadership would be or what it would grow into. And of course, they then hired you to come in and to organize things and to take it forward. And some years later, you invited me to come back and to see what you were doing. And I was totally impressed by what the center had grown into. And I could see your vision for what you believed it could be even better into the future. And over the last 5 or 6 years that I've been able to know you and to visit here, the center's just continued to grow and to be better. And based on that, then I decided that there were some people in my life and some things that I was aware of through some of our companies relative to leadership and courses on leadership, and maybe I could bring those to the table so that it could be guided under the Cal State University Fullerton banner and the Center for Leadership. And one thing led to another, and we started to design a building, and now I hope next year we're going to break ground.
Yeah, this is really exciting. And you go from a concept, an idea, and then you've seen it start to become like a seedling of a center, and now today it's probably among the most impactful centers for leadership in the country.
It is, and we talked earlier about how lucky I've been to have mentors in my life that have assisted me in my various enterprises. And a couple of those people were Werner Erhard and Mike Jensen, two gurus in the world of leadership. Mike Jensen out of Harvard and Werner Erhard out of years of lecturing around the world. And then we had the idea, you and I, of creating the Erhard Institute for Leadership Studies, where we would actually house the papers and the important documents that relate to people who are that have greatness and have created greatness within the field of leadership. So what a beautiful idea to have a building that will not only provide access to young people, but continue to design and be a part of developing the best courses on leadership in the world, and at the same time have a museum of sorts, a library of the important papers and work of people that have changed the world we live in because of the magic and genius of what they've brought to the whole concept of leadership.
Yeah, I mean, the progress and the potential, there's really a lot that we can be excited about moving forward, and there's a lot of impact that can be made.
Yes, absolutely.
So when you look back now, you can look back at that moment when you made that initial investment and you see what the center has grown and become. How do you feel about that initial investment?
I feel great about it. I mean, it had no idea what it was, but you know, sometimes the perfect scenario, the real win, starts from something that doesn't look like it's going to lead to that at all. It's amazing to me in life how that is. You know, some little idea that doesn't seem like it's going to be a great business all of a sudden becomes a great business. But probably out of all the things I've done from a philanthropic standpoint, and I've done a lot, but I'm probably more proud of where we are and where we're going with the Center of Leadership than anything else I've been involved in philanthropically.
Well, that's great, because there's lots more to do with the center moving forward. So as you start thinking about legacy, and I think successful individuals at some point during their journey can start thinking about how they want to be remembered, or how will they be remembered. So Terry, how do you want to be remembered?
I hope that a lot of people who have been involved in my companies have been hugely successful financially, that it's helped their families, that they are heroes in their own household, and maybe they give me a little bit of credit for that. That would be nice. You know, I want my first wife couldn't have children, and when I married Callie, she had two young kids, 5 and 8, and they're now 27 and 30. So I've spent most of their life with them, and I'm so proud of them. And everything I do, if we attach our name, it's both Giles and O'Malley, because my wife's name was Callie O'Malley, and kids, of course, kept their last name. And I hope they someday can say that they're as proud of me as their stepfather as I am of them as my children.
Could you talk a little bit about the importance of giving back?
Well, that's really sort of what it's all about. It's wonderful to win and to get. I mean, you can't give if you don't get. And so it's wonderful as you're growing up and as you're becoming successful to win and to get things. But the thrill of being able to give back is far more powerful. It brings, there's something within the human makeup of the typical human being that brings great satisfaction and fulfillment, and it sort of completes the circle a little bit, you know. The
circle of life.
Yeah, exactly. And I have been again so fortunate to have met and married Callie, and she has been such a great partner for me. She's incredibly talented. Was a great lawyer. She's got a great business head. She's as skilled communicator as there is, great wit, really the full package. And so now that we can start together to move into a world of more philanthropy and move out of the world of being involved in our businesses day to day, I think we're both feeling a lot of satisfaction.
That's terrific, and it's a great testimonial. It really is.
Thank you.
So, if you were to talk a little bit about the building project, what excites you most about this potential new building?
Well, there's several things. First of all, it's been fun working with you, Jay, on what we need to include in the building. We'll have our own television studio in there. We're going to have our own auditorium. We're going to have the Earhart Institute, and all of the an archive for the collecting of papers of the leaders in leadership, not just now, but leaders hopefully 40, 50, 60 years from now, and to sort of put all that into a building. And we were so lucky that the president and the dean of the business school have been so supportive, and we've got this sort of catbird position of where the building is going to be. So it'll be very visible to all the kids students coming on and off the campus. As you know, we're hoping that while we're under the arm of the business school, we're hoping to be able to reach out to all of the other colleges on the campus here at Cal State, because it doesn't matter if you're in communications or you're pre-law or pre-medicine or arts or whatever it is, leadership is necessary in every form. And my vision is that we will be designing leadership courses that will apply to each of the educational institutions that exist here on this campus. And as you know, we've got the largest, what a canvas to work on, the largest student population in California, the largest business school in California, the second largest in the country. 60% of the students here, first time going to college, either side of their family. Diversity that is phenomenal. It is almost a perfect scenario for what we're trying to do. I started here at Cal State in the fall of 1966, and I had to drive down a dirt road through an orange grove in order to get here to the campus. And now to see what it is today, it's just very, very exciting. And to be able to participate with you in the Center for Leadership is just really fantastic. And I am so completely charmed and overwhelmed by the generosity and the leadership of the administration, top to bottom, here at Cal State. It's mind-blowing to me, to be honest with you. It's incredible.
The opportunity for impact is going to be, and will, moving forward,
Yes.
is going to be really prevalent.
Yes.
So we're at the time of our interview now where you get to leave our viewers with a final word of wisdom, a final piece of advice. We call it our final word.
Know that within you is everything you need to succeed in life. It's all there. You just have to awaken to it. Part of that is getting self-confidence. Part of that is self-awareness. And if you can touch that part of you, which is special, and not get arrogant, not get too egotistical, but be the best you can be at all moments, the best version of you, whether it's being a father or a sibling or a son or a grandparent or an employer or an employee, then you are going to live a life worth living.
And there you have it, our final word. Terry, I want to thank you so much for joining us on today's episode, sharing your business journey, sharing your leadership philosophy, and then talking more about your legacy. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, Jay. Great talking to you.
It's always a pleasure. If you have a question or need advice, connect with us by email, leadership@fullerton.edu, or on Instagram @CSUF_CFL. Today we talked about legacy leadership, and we offered a special thanks to our featured guest, Terry Giles. Join us each episode of The Leadership Voice, where your leadership development is our purpose. I'm Jay Barbuto here at the Giles O'Malley Center for Leadership at Cal State Fullerton, and we'll see you next time right here on The Leadership Voice.